So the iliopsoas are the deepest of the hip flexors, and they come off the front of the spine, and then they travel down through the inguinal region and attach on the inside or lesser trochanter of the hip. So the spots we're going to look at for release, so where we're looking is actually where the psoas muscles would be. If I would pierce my finger through David here to the transverse process of the spine and the front of the body, that's release point number 1. Release point number 2 is as the tendon travels underneath the inguinal ligament, which is around the pubic bone, which is right about here. And release point number 3 is a little bit deeper, and it goes down along the edge of the pubic bone and drops deep right to the inside edge of the femur. And so to work these, what we want to do with the vibe, actually the first thing I'm going to have you do, David, is to release the psoas in the abdomen. The most effective technique is going to be lay on your stomach with the roller underneath you. And so we're turning that on to maybe a 2. And so there shouldn't be any abdominal discomfort with this either. It should be very, very comfortable. So make sure you find a good spot for the roller. Now the psoas is a hip flexor. So what we want to do is put a little bit of extension in the hip. So our options are to squeeze glute maximus and medius like you see David doing right here, which in turn drops the pelvis downward a little bit and gets his pressure over the edge of that roll right now. So rather than having to hold the leg in this position, is feel free to get a roller or a block or something to support the thigh so you can actually contract the glutes and then relax the glutes and still have the hip in the extended position. So make sure that this is a height that's comfortable for you and you're not putting pressure onto the lower back area. So the next thing that we can do to actually get to the psoas is it's an internal rotator. So we can add hip rotations. So as his hip is extending, you'll see him rotating internally and externally. Very good. So that's the psoas in the abdomen. So the next thing he's going to do is actually move this down to the inguinal ligament, which is right across the pubic bone. Now, this is a much bonier spot. So once again, make sure you have the roller positioned. And this vibe roller is great. Its peanut shape allows the bony prominence on the front of your hip to fit right on the inside. And so the inside of the roller, or the part that's under him, is what's releasing the psoas right now. And then he's going to go through the same movements that he did earlier with the hip rotations and then with the hip extension holds and releases. Or he can just sit here and allow the vibration to treat. Now, moving down to the last spot on the trochanter is the roller's going to move just under the pubic bone this time. And what he's going to do is really get that contour of the roller around the femur bone. So one side's on the lateral side, and then the other side's getting right into the groin area. Now, once you get that in, you can start off with just sustained pressure. Or in this case, he can still use the hip extension that he was doing earlier through the glute, or the hip rotations, which also creates some cross-fiber work on the tendon. And so the psoas is release of the psoas is effective for the hip, but also very effective for lower back pain. So further releasing the psoas through stretching is using a standard hip flexor stretch, which, would you like me to demonstrate that, or would you like to demonstrate?
You can talk me through it.
Yeah. So the hip flexor stretch that I like is he's going to be on one knee like so, and then he's going to gently contract the glutes, and then he's going to let the leg come forward until he reaches a comfortable stretch. Now, once that stretch is achieved, the psoas stretches functionally when you walk by opposite trunk rotation. So he has the stretch on his right hip, so he's going to turn to the left. And you'll see he looks like he's in the middle of a long running stride right now. So we're taking up multiple planes of motion to stretch this muscle out.
And how long would I hold this stretch for?
This stretch can be held for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. And personally, what I like to do with a stretch like this is as it's loosening up, add a little more movement forward and backward, or rock into it a little bit. Make it a little bit more active and you'll get deeper into it as opposed to just a sustained hold.
That feels great.
Good. And then the last thing you want to do after you release a muscle is to actually set the opposing muscle against it. And so in this case, what we could use is a single leg bridging exercise to set the gluteal muscles and the hamstrings against the hip flexors. So what we'll have David do here is come up onto one leg, good, and he's going to hold that for about 10 seconds, and then he's going to slowly lower down. Now, this is a very aggressive exercise, so if this is too hard or if you're having hip pain, I would suggest doing a double leg bridge as opposed to a single leg bridge.
And how many sets and repetitions of this?
So really with sets and reps, a bridging exercise should be somewhere around 2 sets of 15 reps. We really want to keep the repetitions a little bit higher in this sense, as it's not a very heavy exercise and we want to train more endurance on this one.